Hello and welcome back to my channel, and thank you for everybody who's liking and subscribing to videos. You guys are awesome and stay awesome. So today what we're going to be doing, this is my 79 Rabbit, and we're going to be working on setting the injection pump timing. So in the previous video I put a new head gasket on, I put a new timing belt on and everything, and I started putting all the other pieces and parts together. So what I want to do is set the timing on this before I do the initial startup on the car. So what do we have to do here? So first thing is we're going to be accessing a plug down here. I'll show you in a little bit here, where a tool will go in and we'll measure the timing of the pump from top dead center. So what we're going to do first, and let me step back here. You see, I took the glow plugs, or not the glow plugs, the injection pumps. The injection, holy cow, the diesel injectors, I took those out whenever I was setting the timing and all that on here. So I didn't put them back in, and I also don't have the metal pipes going over. So generally, you would loosen the pipes at the top of the injectors so you can move and adjust the pump as needed to set your timing. So first thing you need to do is, I said, loosen those up if you can. Make sure your cold start, it's sitting back here, goes down to there. Make sure that is pushed in on your dash. Don't let that be sitting out, which is basically your choke or your timing advance for the pump whenever it's cold. So make sure that that's pushed in, because I made that mistake before in the past. I had it sitting out on the dash, I had it out, and I was trying to set the timing and I was all over the place. I couldn't get it right. So make sure that that knob is pushed in on your dash, or my earlier one here, it's on the steering column. So make sure the choke is in. So the choke is in. We have our pipes loose. So the first thing you're going to need to do is take out this pump. And this is your vacuum pump for your brake reservoir. So we'll be taking that out. And basically all that is, oh, there we go. Perfect. Look at the lighting right there. This nut down here, 13 millimeter. Get down here and take this off. And down here, there's an oil feed that actually lubricates and lubes the pump here the whole time. So this has a little fitting on it as well down here. So you want to take this off here. I think this is a 12 millimeter. And this is definitely a 13 millimeter down here. So let's take this off next. We'll take this little bracket thing off. I already loosened it up. So here I took that off, put that on to the side, down there. So then we disconnected that already. I did that already. And then this goes over to here, and you just take this piece off. So you should be able now to lift this right up. Kind of, you got to wiggle it around. It'll come right. Also, it's attached to the case itself. Okay, and all this is a vacuum pump for your brakes. So take that, we'll lay that down over here. But all it does is it's a simple pump. It runs off of the engine, and it puts vacuum to your brake reservoir, and then this comes in and it takes air, or pumps air, or somehow it takes vacuum out of there of your engine. So that hose is actually attached down here, down underneath by the oil filter here. So we got this out. So now we have access to over here. Let me grab the light out of the way here. Now we have access to that over there. So I'm going to remove this pipe. Well, you do not have to do this to set your timing, but my coolant is empty because, like I said, I did the heads. So I'm going to remove this pipe because it's loose, just so display purposes. Normally this would be sitting here and you can actually work around it just fine, but I'm going to take this off. Okay. So now you can see down here there's a plug right here. This is where our little timing reader is going to go into, and I'm going to show you that. So that takes, I think it's an 11 millimeter. Nope. No, that's a 13. Let me go grab a wrench, and then we can take this plug off here. All right, I picked up a 12 millimeter wrench. Come down here. You can see it there. It's in between. It's the one in between your 4 pipes that'll be here. Come down, take that off, loosen it up. it will be pretty snugged on there. So we'll take this off. Okay, so you're going to have some diesel fuel coming out with this, but this is just a plug in there. So keep this to the side. Put it right by there. Okay, so we have this now out. There's a little copper. There's a little copper seal right there, but it's okay. We can leave that there. So let's go over and take a look at the tool that we're going to be using. So here's the tool. This is the part that goes in and threads into that hole right there. And what it does, it has a little plunger on it. See how it goes up and down? And then that goes to your dial indicator and attaches to this part down here. So see how this goes up and down? You push on it. So this is how we're going to set the timing with this. So this piece goes inside of this one and it kind of snugs inside there. Okay, so here we are over by the car. Here's our tool. You take it and just thread it right in there. Just thread it in by hand. You don't need to use a wrench on this or anything. You just twist it on in, just finger tight it, and now that's set in there. Now we're going to take this. I don't know if I could do it with one hand. You can see it go in, and you see it start moving. Okay? You see it start moving, you kind of take this thumb screw and you just snug it up on there. So now it's in there. It's at a random setting. This doesn't mean nothing at this point or whatever, okay? So now we have our gauge set up. So now we need to set the engine. We need to set the engine at top dead center. And I'll show you a picture of, I don't have the valve cover off, or the valve cover offset. I'll show you a picture here of when you're at top dead center with your cam. So we rotated the engine around as the picture you saw here, okay? I'm not taking it off, but you can rotate it here, and you're at top dead center over here. I'll give you a closer look. In the timing video, not in the timing, but the timing belt video, but there's the little mark there, and there's a mark inside there. I'll show you a little picture of that right now. And then that's set on top dead center there. Okay, so now we're gonna go rotate the engine a little bit. Alrighty, we're at top dead center. We're gonna rotate the engine around here a little bit. You can see the gauge is just set at a random spot. It's pressed in a little bit just so the gauge jumps around and it's not bottoming out zero. So what you do is you kind of set that on there and you turn your engine counterclockwise, okay? Counterclockwise until the gauge stops moving. Okay, turn it a little bit. Hard to do with one hand and hold this. All right, it stopped moving now. So now, I turn this wrench over here just a little bit. I probably moved it from here to about here. And now we're bottomed out. The gauge isn't moving anymore when I move the engine. So then I take the gauge, and this dial up on top here, it turns and spins. So you put this to 0. Now we're zeroing out the gauge because it's on the flat part inside of the diesel pump. Okay? So we're at 0 right now. So we're just going to leave it like this. So then we're zeroed out. So where do we set our timing at? So what do we do here? What are we looking for with the gauge? Let's go over to our repair manual. Okay, so you can see here in the manual, we're already up to where we need to be. So what you want to do is check what the gauge reads. It should read with injection pump without a paint dot, and then injection pump with a yellow paint dot. So let's go over to the engine and let's see what we got. This has been a rebuilt pump. I got it rebuilt a while back. These yellow things don't mean nothing up here. These are just nuts and bolts They're just markers for warranty work to make sure you didn't take anything apart and mess up anything. Down here, you can see here, this is a yellow mark that's on the pump. It's just kind of painted on there. It's not on a bolt head or nothing like that. So this has the yellow on here. So I'm going to assume that this should be set to the one with the yellow, the advance of the yellow dot. Okay, let's go back over. Okay, so with the yellow dot, we have an injection pump of 1.1 to 1.20 millimeters of injection or timing. So let's see what we have whenever we go over and we rotate the engine back to top dead center, okay? All right, so here's we're set at 0 on the flat part of the pump, like I said. So let's rotate this back to top dead center, okay? Let's see what we measure up as. I'm rotating it back, or forward actually. The other way was counterclockwise, this is forward. So here we go, we got, that's one revolution, which I'm gonna have to take a closer look at the gauge. I'm not sure what that is. So let's see if I'm at top, I'm gonna see if I'm at top dead center over here, okay? Getting closer. Nope. I need to move just a little bit back to top dead center. So I'm going to look right over here, and I'm looking down this way while I'm moving the wrench. Not quite. It's a little bit tricky to do it to get it back. Sorry I'm not on camera showing this, but I can't get it there. We're there. We're at top dead center. Woo! Takes a couple running back and forth. All right. After back and forth a few times, I'm finally at top dead center. Let me read the gauge here and see how this, what we're reading here. Looking at here. Okay, after taking a closer look at the gauge here itself, so remember we zeroed out at 0, okay? This is a millimeter gauge here. So one rotation around, the whole way around, is 1 millimeter. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. So here, if you go the whole way around one time, that's 1 millimeter. So that means the pump moved its cam inside there 1 millimeter total when it goes from 0 to 0, okay? So every time we go to here, we have 1 millimeter, 0.1. Okay, 1.1 millimeters, and this would be 1.2 millimeters. So in between here we have notches. So we got 1, 2, 3. We're at 3, so we're at 1.13 millimeters of timing on our engine. So if we looked at our book, remember it said it wanted to be 115 to 120. Oh no, I'm sorry, 110 to 120. I'm sorry. So we're within the spec of our pump, so our timing is set. So let's say if ours wasn't in the middle there. So if necessary, loosen the bolts of the mounting bolt and set the lift timing to, here's our yellow dot again, to 1.15 millimeter. So let's go over, I'll show you where, since we're not going to move our pump, I think our pump is good at 1.3. So that's pretty close to the 1.15 plus or minus 0.02 millimeter. So we're good in between on our pump. So I'm not going to move it, but I'm going to show you where the bolts are. So let's say if we need to adjust this. So we need to rotate the pump. The pump rotates in itself right here to where the pulley is. So what you got? You have one 13 millimeter here, another 13 millimeter here, and one 13 millimeter down underneath, which is probably the biggest pain in the butt to get to. And then you have another 13 millimeter. Let's see, where's that guy at? These way down here, this 13 millimeters. So you need to loosen this one up, loosen up all 4 of them so you can rotate your pump. And this is the reason why your injector pump pipes need to be loose, because they're actually steel pipes, just like brake pipes. They're steel, so they're not going to flex. So you need to disconnect not take the injectors out, just loosen the pipes up at the top. So then you can spin and rotate this back and forth, and then you'll have to go back through the procedure again, bottom this back out, or you can actually bottom it back out, take it back to 0. Because if you go backwards, I'll show you that in a second. If you go back, it'll actually go back to 0. And you can, since you have this reading, you can actually rotate it back to top dead center just by looking at this gauge. But that's just something, that's nerdy talk. So anyways, so if we rotate this, we take this back to 0, okay? We rotate it counterclockwise, and we get it back. So then we rotate this a little bit, snug it down, go through the procedure again, bring this back up, see where our gauge is, and see if you're plus or minus, and you got to move it this way or that way to get to your timing that you need or whatever. Okay, so we got that. So these ones you can reach with normal wrenches. The trick to get to that bottom nut down at the bottom is to use one of these. It's a 13 millimeter, but it's on the end of a socket wrench. So this helps you get down underneath here and kind of turn it a little bit at a time. And it's a big pain in the butt to get to it, but this is what I found to be the best way to get that bottom bolt loose. It's down underneath here. You'll see it when you're working on yours, you'll see it a lot better or whatever, but that's the best way I found to get that. So we have our timing now set. We're good with this. So now we're going to put it all back together. So I took the gauge off, I put our plug back in here, and I tightened up all these bolts. I loosened them up a little bit, but it's not really easy to rotate, so it didn't really move anywhere. So I just I tightened all the bolts back up. So then I'm going to start putting everything back together here. I'm going to put the injectors in, and I'll show you the pipes, just kind of show you how the pipes go so you could see when they're on that you need to loosen them. Little tip here. Whenever you go to install your injectors into your Rabbit, get yourself a 27 millimeter deep socket, and it's usually a 1/2 inch socket. But when you go to install them by hand. You just kind of twist them in, snug them in by hand. And when you go to put your wrench on there to tighten it, you always tighten towards the head. So when you tighten it up, when you go to snug it, you're not going to be cranking this on either like crazy. You're just kind of, you snug it and you kind of push it forward and snug it that way. So when you need to take it off, make sure you take it off towards the head as well. You want to be pushing this way to loosen it towards the head, because if you don't, then you'll down here, see these little pieces down here, this will crack on your head. If you don't, if you start pulling it this way away from the head, if you start cranking on it this way, it'll want to crack your head down here. So make sure you're always pushing this way towards the head when you go to tighten it or loosen it by flipping the wrench one side to the other. Okay? I have the injector pipes installed now with the injectors, and you can see here, see how the steel pipes come around? You'll need to loosen them up at the top, either the top ones or loosen them down here on the bottom, because you can see they're steel pipes and they don't move at all, and they're actually so exact that you can, if you take all 4 of them off and you throw them in a jumble in a box, you'll be able to only go on one way. So you're always injecting into the right injector because of the way they're bent. So it's pretty cool. So then there's clamps on here, and a clamp here. So just wanted to show you that. You can see now if you try to turn this with these steel pipes, you're not going anywhere. So make sure you loosen these up when you go to set your timing. Got the brake booster installed, pump, and a little trick is to get this to line up a little bit here. What I do is I'll lift the pump up a little bit and I'll line this up and twist this down by hand, snug it down by hand, and then I'll snug it up, then I'll tighten it up with a wrench, and then I'll put this bracket in and put this down in. Since we got a curl here in the hose coming down, this fitting doesn't quite line up perfect every time, so I kind of like get that lined up, and then I put the pump down in, and then I snug it down with its bracket here. Then attach it to the brake booster, not the brake reservoir, like I keep saying in the video. Well, I'm just about finished with everything here and got everything installed, so I'm going to try giving it a start here. And I may have to work on some wiring, but anyways, so hopefully you find some information useful when setting your timing on your diesel pump. If you have any questions or comments or anything, my email's down below in the description. And questions, comments, anything, if you want to ask how to do it or whatever, just let me know. And thank you for liking, subscribing, making it all the way to the end of the video. You guys are awesome. Stay awesome, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.